Sagittarius, you're facing divorce heartache. Reclaim your freedom with stars. The silence after the storm. The papers are signed. The arguments are over. The house feels impossibly quiet now. A silence that's both mercy and ache. You sit at the edge of your bed, Sagittarius, surrounded by echoes of what used to be a shared life. There's relief in the stillness, yes, that sharp, clean breath of freedom. But beneath it hums something heavier. A loneliness that creeps in like twilight, wrapping around you as you ask yourself, what now? You were the one who finally said, enough. It wasn't impulsive or cruel. It was honest. Sagittarius women rarely walk away to escape. They walk away to live. Your marriage may have looked stable from the outside, but inside it had long ceased to feed your fire. You tried to shrink your wildness to fit the confines of compromise, to dim your laughter so others wouldn't feel small beside it. But truth for you is oxygen. Without it, even love becomes suffocation. And so you left, not because you stopped caring, but because you could no longer betray yourself. You hoped that freedom would taste like wind on open roads. Instead, it tastes like uncertainty. Bills to manage alone. Children to comfort through tears that mirror your own. A heart that swings between relief and regret. You lie awake some nights, wondering whether you chose liberation or loneliness. Whether the stars that once guided you have gone dark, or if they're simply waiting for you to look up again. This is the quiet initiation that follows divorce, the in-between space where the old story has ended, but the new one has not yet begun. It's a season of questions without answers, of courage disguised as exhaustion. Yet deep within that silence, something sacred stirs. Because you, Sagittarius, are ruled by Jupiter, the planet of growth, wisdom, and renewal. You are not meant to stay small, even in sorrow. You were born to expand through experience, to find meaning in chaos, to transform endings into beginnings. Divorce is not your defeat. It is your threshold. You are standing in the liminal space between who you were and who you are becoming. And while this path may feel raw and unfamiliar, it is also blessed, because it is honest. Every pain you feel now is carving space inside you for something larger. Self-respect, independence, and the kind of joy that isn't borrowed from anyone else. You are not broken, Sagittarius. You are awakening. The stars have not abandoned you. They are aligning for your rebirth. Jupiter is rising, whispering that freedom is not found in escape, but in becoming whole. And so, as you step into this new chapter, alone but not lost, remember this. Your story isn't ending. It's widening. The road before you is still your road. The archer still carries her bow. And though your heart may tremble, your spirit remembers the way forward. Chapter 1: The Freedom That Hurts. Sagittarius and the Aftermath of Divorce. Freedom, the very thing you longed for, now sits beside you like a stranger. You fought for it, dreamed of it, prayed for it in the late hours of discontent. You imagined that once the papers were signed, your lungs would fill again with laughter and the promise of a new beginning. But now, in this first season after separation, freedom feels less like flight and more like fallout. The silence that used to comfort you now hums with unease. You wake up in the stillness of dawn, unsure where you belong, unsure who you are without the old routines that once shaped your days. This is the paradox of the Sagittarius spirit. You crave expansion, yet after divorce, the very openness you sought can feel terrifying. The vastness of possibility can suddenly resemble emptiness. You were the archer, always chasing truth, and when truth demanded you walk away, you listened. But no one told you that even liberation has its shadows. The first months can feel like exile, as if the freedom you earned has cost you your sense of home. Sagittarius women often lead their divorces, not out of defiance but devotion to authenticity. You could no longer pretend that love meant confinement. You chose self-respect over comfort, growth over security. And yet, that choice, as righteous as it is, comes with an ache that few acknowledge. Studies reveal that nearly 66% of divorces in the United States are initiated by women, and many of those women face greater emotional and financial instability afterward. You may recognize yourself in those numbers. Navigating child-rearing alone, stretching your budget to cover both survival and dreams, carrying guilt for breaking something the world told you to keep intact. But dear Sagittarius, guilt has no place in truth. You left not because you failed, but because you refused to abandon your own light. You are not selfish, you are brave. You are not reckless, you are real. The cost of authenticity is always steep, but its rewards are eternal. What you're experiencing now, the heaviness, the solitude, the uncertainty, is not punishment. It's purification. It's the shedding of what no longer fits your spirit. In astrology, every ending carries the vibration of a beginning. When your marriage closed, a new energetic portal opened, one that allows you to rediscover who you are without compromise. But that rediscovery takes time. It is not a sudden awakening but a slow remembering. You must relearn how to stand in your own energy without reaching for someone else's stability. You must rebuild faith not in marriage but in life itself. Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter, learns through experience, by walking through the world and drawing wisdom from every terrain. And now this heartbreak is your teacher. The lessons will not come through books or mentors, but through the quiet moments of your own becoming. When loneliness presses on your chest, when you feel like the night will never end, remember this. Even Jupiter, the largest and most luminous planet, spends part of its cycle in retrograde. Even it must turn inward to rediscover its power. Use this inward phase wisely. Let solitude become your sanctuary, not your sentence. When the evenings stretch long, light a candle for yourself. Sit by the window and look at the stars. The same ones that guided you out of unhappiness will now guide you toward healing. You've always been the seeker of higher meaning, so seek it here in the middle of heartbreak. Ask the universe, what is this pain trying to expand within me? The answers will come, soft and sure, as they always do when Sagittarius opens her heart to the truth. This is not a collapse. It is a clearing. It's the moment before rebirth, the quiet before Jupiter begins to bless your next chapter. Your fire, though dimmed, is still sacred. It's being refined, reshaped into something stronger. Not the restless blaze that once burned for adventure, but a steadier warmth that can sustain you through life's winters. So breathe. Cry if you need to. Rest without guilt. Let the world be smaller for a while. Freedom will not always feel this heavy. One morning soon, you'll wake and realize that the silence no longer hurts. It will feel spacious, like air, like truth, like peace. Affirmation: my freedom is not escape. It is my path back to truth. Even through loneliness, I am expanding into the woman I was born to become. Chapter 2: Jupiter's Guidance. Transforming loss into expansion. In the dark aftermath of endings, when the house feels too large and the nights too long, the heavens begin to hum with quiet instruction. You may not hear it at first, Sagittarius, but your ruling planet Jupiter has already begun to move on your behalf. Where Mars burns and Saturn restricts, Jupiter blesses. It governs faith, wisdom, and the steady widening of the heart after it has been broken. When you think all is lost, Jupiter reminds you that loss itself is the classroom of expansion. Jupiter completes its orbit every 12 years, and every return marks a cycle of rebirth. A moment when life pushes you to grow beyond the limits you once thought defined you. For a Sagittarius woman emerging from divorce, this is more than cosmic timing. It's a spiritual renewal. During your Jupiter return or even its supportive transits, doors open. Not always externally but within. You begin to see patterns that once trapped you. You understand the lessons hidden inside your heartbreak. What felt like destruction starts to reveal itself as divine redirection. Freedom after divorce is not a clean break. It's a slow unraveling of what no longer belongs. Under Jupiter's gaze, this unraveling becomes sacred work. You are learning how to expand again, not through relationships but through consciousness. This planet teaches you to seek wisdom rather than blame, to ask, what is this trying to teach me? Instead of, why did this happen to me? The difference between those two questions is the difference between pain and growth. Use this cosmic energy to anchor your healing. Jupiter doesn't promise ease, but it guarantees meaning. In its benevolent light, your suffering transforms into perspective. You begin to understand that the marriage you left wasn't a mistake. It was a curriculum. It showed you what you no longer wanted, so you could make space for what your soul truly needs. Every heartbreak, every night you cried alone, every bill you paid with trembling hands, each one was Jupiter's lesson in sovereignty. You were never abandoned. You were being re-educated in the art of self-trust. As Jupiter expands your vision, you may find old dreams returning, passions that went dormant while you were busy surviving. Perhaps you start to write again, or paint, or travel, or simply allow yourself to imagine a future that belongs only to you. The planet of expansion loves exploration, both physical and philosophical. It urges you to travel again, not necessarily to distant lands, but into the parts of yourself you've ignored. You might take weekend trips alone, journaling by rivers or sitting beneath new skies, not to escape your life but to remember that it still holds adventure. Try this. Each time Jupiter forms a supportive aspect in your chart, mark it as a day of intentional expansion. Make a list of one thing you want to understand, one boundary you want to honor, one experience you want to create. Then act on it. Jupiter rewards movement, not reckless leaps but faith-filled steps. When you move toward possibility, possibility moves toward you. There will still be days when grief feels heavy, when freedom feels like an empty sky. On those days, remember Jupiter's other lesson. Joy is not a destination. It's a muscle that grows with use. Even the smallest joys, a cup of coffee on a quiet morning, your child's laughter echoing down the hall, the comfort of your own voice saying, "I'm okay," are seeds of expansion. Under Jupiter's influence, nothing small stays small. Gratitude magnifies energy, and what you bless begins to multiply. If you feel lost, light a candle and whisper, "Jupiter, show me where growth hides in this pain." Then sit in silence for a few minutes. You may not hear an answer, but something inside you will shift. A subtle widening of trust, a remembering that the universe has always conspired for your healing. You see, Sagittarius, you were never meant to stay in the ruins. Jupiter's wisdom is movement. Forward, upward, outward. The planet doesn't erase your pain. It transforms it into guidance. It takes the ashes of what collapsed and builds the soil for your next harvest. One day you will look back on this time and realize it was your awakening. The chapter where you stopped defining yourself by what you lost and started shaping your life around what you are becoming. And when that realization comes, your laughter, that bright, contagious Jupiter-born laughter, will return. Not the laughter that hides exhaustion, but the kind that rises from truth, from relief, from knowing you survived and grew. You'll look up at the sky and feel it expanding with you, whispering, "This is not the end, my brave one. This is your next horizon." Affirmation. Growth is my birthright. Even loss expands me. I walk forward with Jupiter's light guiding my path, transforming every ache into wisdom and every ending into beginning. Chapter 3: Healing the Heart. From isolation to community connection. There's a kind of silence that feels too big for words, Sagittarius. The silence of an empty house after the children have gone to bed, or the quiet hum of the refrigerator when all the noise of partnership has faded. First, this silence feels like punishment. You fill it with distractions, podcasts, television, phone scrolling, anything to drown the echo of absence. But over time, even the distractions lose their power, and you're left with the truth. Loneliness isn't just being alone. It's feeling unseen in a world that has no space for your kind of in-between. Divorced, midlife, tired, but still full of fire. You have always been a seeker of connection, Sagittarius. Friendship, community, shared laughter. These are your lifelines. Yet after divorce, when emotional bruises are still tender, you may hesitate to reach out. You tell yourself others wouldn't understand, or that you should be stronger by now. But the isolation only deepens when you keep your story locked inside. This is where Jupiter, your ruling planet, offers another of its cosmic truths. Expansion happens through connection. Healing is not a solo journey. It happens when your heart dares to meet another's and say, "I'm still finding my way too." Statistically, most divorced women experience a sharp dip in social connection within the first 2 years after separation. Old friendships fade, social circles split, and even family can feel uncertain about where to stand. It's no wonder that loneliness has become one of the most reported emotional wounds among midlife women in transition. But astrology reminds us that Sagittarius rules the 11th house, the realm of community, networks, and hope for the collective. Connection is your medicine. You are not meant to heal in isolation. Begin by allowing yourself to be seen again. Not as someone's ex-wife, not as a caretaker or mother, but as you. A woman with stories, humor, intelligence, and an ever-burning curiosity about life. Start small. Attend a local book club, an astrology circle, a yoga class, or a single-parent meetup. Not to impress but to belong. Each smile you exchange, each conversation shared, is a small spark of Jupiter's light weaving you back into the tapestry of human warmth. And if stepping into physical spaces feels too heavy at first, start virtually. The world has grown vast in ways that mirror your own nature. There are online communities of Sagittarius women navigating these same waters, spiritual networks, travel forums, healing groups, women's retreats that gather under moonlight through screens and shared intention. Here you can tell your story without judgment. You can laugh about the absurdity of rebuilding, cry without apology, and remember that freedom doesn't mean solitude. It means choice. You get to choose who stands beside you on this new road. Let connection also happen through storytelling, your most natural gift. Sagittarius energy is born of narrative. You heal when you turn experience into wisdom. Try writing about your journey, not as tragedy but as transformation. Journal your days, your insights, the moments of light that appear amid the fatigue. Or go further. Share your reflections with others. Start a blog, join a writing group, record voice notes about resilience. Your story told honestly will echo into hearts that need it, because somewhere out there, another woman is reading by the same moon, wondering if she'll ever feel whole again. You can be her reminder that she will. Connection is not only social, it's also spiritual. When you sit beneath the night sky, you are in communion with every woman who's ever looked up seeking comfort. The stars you see are billions of years old, their light reaching you after crossing unimaginable distance. That is community, Sagittarius, not confined by space or time but eternal. You are not alone in your grief or your hope. The universe itself is a network of connection, and you are part of that sacred web. And then there are your children. If you are raising them through this transition, they too are learning from your courage. They are watching you rise, perhaps imperfectly but authentically. They are seeing, maybe for the first time, what freedom with integrity looks like. In the act of rebuilding, you are teaching them emotional intelligence, self-respect, and faith in new beginnings. You are mothering not just them but yourself, the self that went quiet in the old life, the self that now deserves tenderness. Healing through community doesn't mean crowding your schedule or seeking approval. It means remembering that you belong to something larger than your pain. The isolation that followed your divorce was never meant to last. It was the cocoon before flight. The more you reach out, in honesty, in vulnerability, in curiosity, the more your life will begin to fill again, not with the noise of obligation, but with the melody of shared healing. And slowly connection becomes joy again. You'll find yourself laughing more, maybe with a new friend, maybe with an old one who never stopped believing in you. You'll feel moments of warmth returning to your chest, the kind that doesn't depend on romance but on resonance. You'll realize that love didn't leave with your marriage, it simply shifted form. One evening soon, you'll stand beneath Jupiter's sky, surrounded not by the absence of partnership, but by the presence of possibility. You'll look around at your children, your friends, your newfound community, and understand that you are part of a constellation far bigger than you imagined. Affirmation: I am not alone in this journey. Connection restores my light. Through community, laughter, and shared truth, I rise again, open, radiant, and whole. Chapter 4: Rebirth Rituals. Reigniting optimism and trust in life. There comes a morning, Sagittarius, when you wake and realize that the air feels different. The grief hasn't vanished, but it no longer suffocates. The sky looks wider again, not because the world changed overnight, but because you did. Somewhere between heartbreak and healing, you began to remember who you are. A traveler, a philosopher, a woman who has always turned endings into doorways. Divorce may have stripped you bare, but it also gave you back the most sacred thing you'd forgotten, yourself. Now it's time to rebuild your relationship with life itself, to reintroduce adventure and optimism not as distractions, but as healing forces. The universe, through Jupiter's benevolent gaze, calls you to move, to breathe, to seek meaning again. Healing is not about rushing into new love or filling silence with noise. It's about rediscovering your rhythm with existence, the rhythm of expansion, curiosity, and faith that your soul has always known. Begin by creating what I call a ritual of return, a conscious act of coming home to yourself. It doesn't need grandeur. Perhaps it's lighting a candle each morning, whispering, I am here. I am enough. I begin again. Rituals root you when everything else feels uncertain. They remind your body that it's safe to trust life again. Light is medicine for Sagittarius. Fire is your language. So let flame accompany you in small ways. Candles at breakfast, incense at dusk, the gentle crackle of wood if you're lucky enough to sit by a fire. These are not just aesthetic comforts. They are reminders that your element still burns. When the ache of loss lingers, turn to motion. Jupiter's child cannot heal in stagnation. Even if travel feels impossible right now, make movement your prayer. Go for long walks with music that lifts your spirit, or drive without destination. Windows open, heart open. Moving through space reminds your nervous system that expansion is still possible. If your situation allows, plan small solo adventures. A weekend by the ocean, a train ride to a quiet town, a hike under new skies. Let the world hold you again. Each horizon you meet will whisper, there is more for you still. And as you travel near or far, begin a travel journal of becoming. This is not a record of destinations, but of awakenings. Write about the things you notice, how grief softens with distance, how sunsets feel different when you're the only one watching. Journal not to analyze but to witness your rebirth in real time. Sagittarius learns through storytelling. Your words are spells that rewrite pain into wisdom. In astrology, rituals gain power when aligned with celestial rhythm. During new moons, set intentions for renewal. Financial stability, emotional balance, self-love. Write them down and read them aloud, claiming them as truths already unfolding. During full moons, release. Write letters to your old self, to your ex-partner, to the version of you who believed she needed someone else to feel complete. Burn or bury those letters, letting the universe transmute what you no longer carry. Fire purifies, release liberates. You can also practice what I call Jupiter gratitude rituals. Each night list 3 moments from the day, small glimmers of grace. A friend's message, your child's smile, the taste of tea when the house finally quiets. Gratitude magnifies expansion. Under Jupiter's influence, even tiny joys become cosmic teachers. The more you bless what you already have, the more the universe offers you to celebrate. When fear of the future creeps in, the doubts about finances, the uncertainty of single parenthood, the questions about love, turn to affirmations. Speak them out loud with conviction and tenderness. I am divinely supported. My path unfolds in perfect timing. Every ending grows into a horizon of hope. Your voice is a vibration of creation. Words are spells. Each one you speak reshapes reality. And do not forget community. Healing rituals gain momentum when shared. Gather women, friends, sisters, kindred spirits, and create your own circle of rebirth. Share stories beneath the moon. Exchange symbols of courage. You'll find that healing expands faster in shared energy. Each woman's light amplifies the others, forming a constellation of resilience. Most of all, cultivate optimism not as naive hope, but as sacred discipline. It's easy to believe in light when skies are clear. The challenge and the gift is to trust the dawn while it's still dark. Jupiter's wisdom teaches that faith is an action, not an accident. Each time you choose to expect good things, even when logic says otherwise, you are aligning yourself with your cosmic truth. Optimism is not denial. It's devotion to possibility. As you practice these rituals, these daily offerings to your own becoming, you'll notice your energy shifting. The weight will lessen. The laughter will return. The horizon, once blurred by heartbreak, will sharpen again. You'll begin to feel something you thought you'd lost forever. Excitement. Excitement not about what's next, but about you, about this woman who walked through dissolution and came out radiant. You are not the same person who entered that marriage. You are wiser now, more sovereign, more luminous. The stars celebrate this version of you, the one who knows how to build from ashes, how to trust in movement, how to choose joy not because life is easy, but because joy is truth. Affirmation. Every ending expands me. I am reborn in motion, guided by Jupiter's light. My optimism is sacred fire, steady, unstoppable, alive. Conclusion. Freedom reimagined. The joy of becoming whole again. Freedom was once a distant dream, something that shimmered on the horizon while you stood behind the walls of duty, longing for a life that breathed. When you finally stepped into it, it didn't feel the way you expected. It felt raw, heavy, uncertain. But now, Sagittarius, as the dust of heartbreak settles and your spirit begins to steady, you see the truth. Freedom was never meant to rescue you. It was meant to reveal you. Divorce did not break you. It unveiled you. The woman who stands here now is not the same one who said goodbye. She has walked through grief, learned the language of solitude, and discovered that independence is not absence. It is presence. You are not free from something anymore, you are free for something. For truth. For joy. For the endless rediscovery of yourself. Look at how far you've come. The tears that once blurred your mornings have turned into clarity. The silence that felt unbearable has become sacred space. A home where your thoughts can stretch again. Where your laughter returns without permission. You've learned to build not from need but from intention. You no longer chase love as completion. You invite it as reflection. Sagittarius, your freedom now carries depth. It no longer burns recklessly, it glows wisely. It is not the wild road you once ran to escape your pain. It is the steady path you walk to meet your truth. This is Jupiter's ultimate gift. To remind you that expansion is not always movement. Sometimes it's stillness, awareness, and faith in the unseen. You no longer need to prove your worth through resilience. Your existence itself is proof of divine endurance. There will still be moments when loneliness visits, not as a ghost but as a teacher. When it does, you'll know how to greet it. You'll pour tea for it, sit in quiet understanding, and let it remind you that solitude is not emptiness. It is the fertile soil of selfhood. You've learned that your own company is not a void but a garden, one that blooms stronger with every boundary you honor, every truth you speak, every dream you dare to water again. Your journey through divorce was never just about separation. It was a sacred rite of passage, a cosmic initiation into your next evolution. You've walked through fire and found that your essence does not burn away. It refines. You've cried oceans and yet your light remains steady, reflecting off the waves of change. You are living proof that heartbreak is not the end of love but the expansion of it. Love for self, for life, for the miraculous unfolding of becoming. And now, as you stand beneath Jupiter's vast sky, you feel it, that quiet hum of joy returning to your bones. The kind of joy that doesn't depend on circumstances, but on alignment. The joy of breathing without apology, of trusting the future without fear, of knowing that you can begin again. Not as someone who's been broken, but as someone who's been beautifully remade. So tonight, stand under the stars that have always watched over you. Whisper your gratitude to the universe, not for what you lost, but for what you found. Your truth, your strength, your sacred self. Close your eyes and feel Jupiter's light expanding through you. Soft, golden, infinite. The archer has come home not to a place but to her own heart. I am whole. I am free. I am the archer reborn. My past no longer confines me, it refines me. My freedom is not escape, it is love. I walk forward with faith, guided by the stars, carrying joy that cannot be taken, only shared.